Hello, my yarn smithing lovelies. Welcome back to my studio here in central UK. It's really nice to have you along. If you haven't seen me before, this is where we gather and talk all things yarn. So today we're going to talk about a bit more hate I've had because I do reviews on Temu. For goodness sake, I'm getting a bit fed up of it. And we're also going to talk about this was a request. Somebody asked me if I would have a look at knitting with square knitting needles. It's something that I hadn't done before, so stay tuned. So first of all, the hate again. Oh dear! Somebody sent me a long comment telling me about how awful I was because I was recommending people buy things from Temu, specifically yarn. Of course, we're talking about that's all I ever buy from there, nothing else. And they said that was I aware of all the toxins and all the poisons that they deliberately put in there for us people. I don't know who she meant by us people. I imagine she meant not Chinese. I don't know. Racist much. But us people, they did it deliberately for us people to put those dye toxins and poisons into our skin. Oh dear. So I've said this so many times before. When buying from anywhere like that you're not 100% sure of, just do a bit of research. It's ever so easy to do. So for people who haven't seen me waffle on about Temu before, Temu is just a sales platform. That's all it is. Temu partner with manufacturers, and those manufacturers send the goods directly to the consumer, which means then there's no agent, no wholesaler, no retailer, all of the people who would normally take a cut. So therefore, by the time it reaches the consumer, buying it direct from the manufacturer just works out cheaper. But that's basically what Temu is. Worldwide, some things that have been on sale, I'm talking specifically, there was an incident with some children's toys who there was a higher portion of lead in those in the paints than the particular country they were found in allowed. There was one or two things like that, but as far as yarn's concerned, I think when you really look, when you do your research, a lot of these companies that are supplying direct to the consumer do weave, do spin for very reputable companies. The biggest producers or the biggest spinners of wool, for example, that's come from Australia, are the Chinese. So if you buy something that says Australian wool on the label, it's more likely than not to have been spun and processed and dyed, etc., in China. So when people say to me, why don't you buy Australian wool? Instead, well, I probably am. just do a little bit of research. That's all it takes. So what you have to do, as far as I'm concerned, here in the UK, I use the UK specific Temu site, and on there are a couple of little things that you can click. One tells you who the manufacturer is, and the other one tells you who is responsible for the checks when those things come into our country. So there is a responsible person, it's usually an import company, who guarantee the quality of that product, and they guarantee that it meets all of the safety requirements for us here, specifically in the UK, and the one that I'm specifically talking about does for the EU as well. In your country that might be slightly different, but just do the research, have a look on the page that the particular thing is listed on, and on there it will say safety, and just click on it and just have a little look. I have mentioned that in past videos. So the particular yarn that this person was talking about, when I went and did the research, the company, the manufacturer, was there listed quite plainly. So after just a couple of Google searches, I found the manufacturer's website, and I went on there, and it turns out that this is a really high-tech company, and the pictures of the factory, I'm not going to share them because I would ask permission first from them before I do. I might do that and actually put them on, but the fact you can actually do the research yourself, you can find them. But the pictures, this immaculately clean, almost completely automated plant that was spinning yarn. They also have on their website, and on this particular yarn, the Ecotex certification, which means it's been independently checked for things like poisons and toxins, and is their dye safe. Ecotex 1 means that it can be worn directly against a child's skin. It's safe to do so. So this was the yarn that this particular person was talking about, and this was the yarn that she said they deliberately put toxins and poisons in, so us people wear it against our skin. Sorry, darling, it's very rare that I say things like this. It's garbage. Do your research, just go and have a look, and use your own forum, go to your own site and post ridiculous things like that. Anyway, I mustn't get cross. So the next thing, there was a little thing that's popped up all over the knitting channels on the Sci show. Sci, nothing to do with me, Simon. Sci as in science show, where some bloke was talking about the science of knitting, and I actually found it quite interesting. If you go and have a look, some of his facts were slightly incorrect. There was no intent to offend anybody or whatever. I actually thought this is quite cool that the craft that we do and has been around for all these thousands of years is being looked at by a scientist, and he's explaining the the tension in the stitches and how the yarn in different stitches finds its way back to its shape and all kinds of stuff. And I actually found it quite interesting. As he was talking, I did think, it's not quite right, and that's not quite right. But I just thought the fact that they were even looking at it was quite positive. Some of quite a lot of people who shot up on YouTube to complain bitterly about this man that was talking about our beloved craft. It was more about that he was saying about how men did it, and that they thought that they were being belittled. The craft was belittled as a woman's craft and all that kind of stuff. If you watched a video, a couple of videos back, some person had a go at me because I was a man that was knitting, and that shouldn't happen because it's a it's a gender specific craft, and it was only for women to do. No, it's not. And I said, and as this bloke said, actually, it was men that used to do the knitting in the knitters guilds and all that kind of stuff. It was specifically, it was gender specific back in those days when it was just for men. It was actually the First World War that started women, quite posh women, knitting in public to show their support for soldiers. They were knitting socks and things for soldiers, and this man dared to say that women were knitting for their children, and women with a bit of time on their hands took to the craft, and all these women were saying, isn't it dreadful, isn't it dreadful? Get a life. Love. I just think the fact that it was on there, and okay, he did get some of his facts wrong, but just the mere fact that that our beloved craft, as these women said, have been brought into the scientific world, and it's being looked at on that basis, I think is just a positive thing. I don't think there was anything wrong with what you said. Anyway, that aside, so now that's the bit of hate again out of the way. I'm going to get some hate for that. You watch from the. I'm not even going to say the word. Watch next week and have a look at all the hate that I've been getting. Is there a bit of fun me there? That's it. Oh, it's there. I don't know what it is. So anyway, I was asked by a subscriber if I would have a look at square knitting needles, and just to see if there was any difference between that and the normal, whatever, round knitting needles. So I went on to Amazon, because I didn't dare go on on Temu and have a look. They have got them. They have got exactly the same things. They have got them on there. I thought I daren't do that, so let's go on Amazon, thinks I. So the first ones I had a look at were the straight needles, and let me move that down. Which are these? I don't know if you can see. And this is by Knit Pro, and these are called J'adore cubic single pointed needles. These are 12-inch ones, and they look lovely. They look really nice. I couldn't really understand, I must admit, when I was asked to look at this, is why cubic needles? Is it just a gimmick or what? So I thought, well, I'm going to knit with them. So I just did a little bit of a knit on. This was I'm going to get into trouble now. This was yak wool that was from Temu. It's gorgeous, honestly. Might not be yak, might be something else. I don't care, because it's gorgeous. So anyway, square needles. It wasn't until I started to knit with them that I thought, hold on, this feels really nice. And I couldn't quite work out why. So these, they're very light. It doesn't feel like you're holding anything at all. And I realised a few rows in to the knit that I wasn't gripping the needles nearly as tightly as I do when I'm using the round needles, because the stitches kind of stay where they put, and I'm not holding on for dear life, you know, to try and get them to stop sliding off. And by the time I'd finished that sample, I thought, do you know, I get it. I actually get it. They're much nicer to knit with. I'm more relaxed. I'm getting to a certain age now where, you know, my joints are starting to ache a little bit, and I didn't get any joint pain or anything. So at first what I thought was a gimmick isn't. There really is a difference. There really is a difference between. So these ones, the Knit Pro J'adore cubic single pointed needles, they're leaning towards the expensive side. However, I've got kind of half a feeling I'm going to get rid of most of my round ones, and I'm going to go for cubics. They were so much nicer to knit with. When I did a tension swatch, case in point, obviously the stitch length, because it's going around a cube rather than a circle, a square rather than a circle, the stitch length can come out ever so slightly different, and I found out I had to go up half a size to get the same tension as that size. So I think, for example, the tension that I do on a circular 5mm, I had to use the 5.5 to come out with the same tension. That just might be me. It might be because it was the first time I was using them. Don't know. I'll keep that in mind as I keep doing tension swatches, and I'll let you know how that works. So then, because I liked those, I mean, I knit on 5 pins quite a lot when I'm doing socks. If anybody's kind of watched what I do, they know that I do socks quite a lot. So I also did a little bit on that to see how it went. This is merino wool from Temu. I don't know if it is 100% merino wool, but it's gorgeous. So I'm using it. Who cares? Apart from, of course, it's full of toxins and poisons for us people to wear against that skin. Anyway, the thing that I loved about this one, they kind of weigh nothing. They just feel so light in your hands. But what I actually really loved is it stayed on the needles. The stitches stayed where I put them. I wasn't constantly sliding backwards and forwards. And as I was knitting in the round, I wasn't like I often do if I'm using round metal needles. I often, you know, just keep having a check to make sure that all the needles are in the right place and they're holding the stitches. Didn't have to do that with this. Something else I noticed, which I don't know if it's got anything to do with using the square needles or what. I don't know if you can see. Now, normally, no matter how hard I try, there is always, when I'm knitting on 5 pins, like a little ladder that runs down on the joining of the needles. That does always come out when the sock, usually is what I'm knitting, has been blocked. But I did notice on the square needles, whether that's got anything to do with it or not, don't know. Can't work it out if it has. That didn't happen. So I'm not entirely sure. I will do a little bit more research into that and just find out if it is using square pins that makes the difference to that. So what I'll do, I'll knit two things side by side. I'll do one on square and one on circular, and have a look at the join and see if there actually is any difference. So again, I'm going to let you know. Those again for, I think these were the 15 centimetre versions in 3.5 millimeters. I think this was like £10.89 or something for the set. Again, leaning towards the expensive side, but I think what I'm going to do over a period of time, because I'm always losing needles and all kinds of stuff, and I've got a bag full of odd needles, no idea where they go. It's a bit like your socks in the washing machine. I've got no idea where they go, but as I come to replace needles, I'm going to actually replace with these square ones, because they're just a joy to work with. There are also, I was going to include in this review, but they actually haven't arrived yet. There were sets of circular needles that were the square ones. I think I'll have the same view on those as well, I would think. But again, when I've used them, I will let you know. Knit Pro do a set of them that really are very expensive, and I've kind of left little hints for husband. Christmas is a coming. That's all I'm going to say for that. Husband, if you're watching, it's Knit Pro. J'adore cubic circular needles in a set. Thank you. Anyway, moving on. So that's that. So for the person that asked me to look at them, thank you so much. I'm really pleased that you did that, because that has, you know, pushed me again in a different direction. Since I've been doing the YouTube channel, people have asked me for, you know, to look at things, and I've stumbled across quite a few things that I haven't used for whatever reason, thinking they were gimmicky or whatever. There was the yarn genie. Do you remember the thing that I put the wool on to pull it out? Use those all the time now. I'm going to be using square knitting needles because they were a pleasure to knit with, honestly. So that was that. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please, in the comments below, if there's anything like this that you would like me to have a look at, don't hesitate, just pop it down there. And if enough people ask for the same thing, I will do a video on it. So thank you very much for the people who do that. Thank you for all of your lovely comments. The vast majority of comments I get on this channel really are lovely. The few nasty ones give us a little bit of fun at the beginning of most videos. I don't take it too seriously, any of it. You know, some of these people have got a problem, so it's a bit sad. Really. Anyway, I have to keep stopping myself, thinking, I'm going to get into trouble for saying that. I'm going to get so much hate for saying that. So anyway, please like and subscribe. Like I've said, it really does help out the channel. It does something to the YouTube algorithm, and it means that YouTube puts these videos out for a lot more people to see. If you want to pop over and have a look on my Patreon site, there's lots going on over there. You can join as a free member and just have a look, or you can sign up as a paid member, and that will give you access to all of my knitting patterns I post on there. Some of those patterns are already for sale on Lovecrafts or on Ravelry, but if you're a paid member of the Patreon site, you get all of those things for free or as part of your membership. There are also patterns that I put up on there that are exclusive for my Patreon members. You can't buy those anywhere else. If you don't want to sign up on there, you can actually just go onto the Patreon site and buy single patterns. But if you pay the membership, you've got access to everything. The thing that we're doing at the moment over there, what I tend to do is, you know, I ask what people want, and the consensus for this project was they wanted a V-neck cable, a sweater, and would I come up with something that had got a little bit of complication to it? So this is what I came up with. We've actually just put all of us together. We kind of, I'm posting things as we go along and people are commenting. So we've done a saddle shoulder cable pattern sweater, and we've just set the first sleeve in. Hopefully I'm going to finish the second sleeve today and we can get on to the neckband. So pop over there and have a little look. Details are up on the top of the screen. So in the meantime, happy yarn smithing. Love as always, whether you're sending me hate or not, I still love you. Love as always. I'm going to see you really soon. Bye.